All right, today we are going to crack open one of the most fundamental concepts in all of cybersecurity, the exploit. You know, it's that secret key, the one that can turn a tiny, almost invisible crack in your digital life into a wide-open door for an attacker. So, let's get into it.
But first, let me ask you something. Just think for a second about all your stuff, your phone, your laptop, your online accounts. We like to think of them as these little digital fortresses, right? Built to protect our most valuable information. But have you ever really stopped to ask yourself how secure they actually are?
Because here's the thing. Every single piece of software we use, from the operating system on our phone to our favorite video game, is basically a fortress built by human hands. And you know what that means? Just like a real castle, no matter how big and strong it looks from the outside, there can always be hidden weaknesses, little flaws in the design.
And in cybersecurity, we have a name for those flaws. They're called vulnerabilities. And the fortress analogy is perfect here. A vulnerability isn't some obvious threat, like a huge army with a battering ram at the front gate. No, it's much sneakier. It's that small, hidden crack in the wall that the builders missed, the one nobody was ever supposed to find.
Now, a crack in a wall, all by itself, is really just a potential problem, right? For it to become a real threat, someone needs a way to actually use it. And that right there brings us to the main event, the attacker's secret key.
And this is the key. An exploit is the specific tool that someone builds to take advantage of that specific vulnerability. It's a piece of code, a string of data, a very precise sequence of commands that turns a theoretical weakness into a very, very real security breach. It's not just the attack, it's the method of the attack.
This really is the best way to think about it. If a vulnerability is like a uniquely shaped lock that was never supposed to exist, well, the exploit is the custom-built key, engineered to fit it perfectly. It's targeted, it's precise, and it's built for that one single flaw.
So how does an attacker actually get this key into the lock to swing open the gates? Let's break down how an exploit actually works in the wild.
Generally, exploits kind of come in two main flavors. First, you've got the remote exploit. This is the one that keeps security pros up at night, because it means an attacker can break into your fortress from halfway across the world using nothing but a network connection. Then you have a local exploit. This one's different. It requires the attacker to already have some kind of access. Basically, they need an inside man, who can then use an exploit to get into more sensitive areas of the castle.
But here's the thing. Just getting through the wall is only step one. The exploit's real purpose is to deliver something called the payload. Think of the payload as the malicious cargo that it's smuggling inside, the ransomware, the spyware, whatever it is. The exploit is the key that opens the door, but the payload is what the invaders do once they're inside.
Okay, but here's where the whole story gets really fascinating. Because just like any powerful tool, an exploit isn't automatically a bad thing. It all comes down to who's using it and, more importantly, why they're using it.
So on one side, you've got the good guys, security researchers. We call them white hats. They actually build what are called proof-of-concept exploits. Their whole goal is just to prove that a vulnerability is real so that the developers can fix it and make the fortress stronger. But on the other side, you have the black hats, the malicious attackers. They use the exact same techniques to steal data, cause damage, and take control. It's the same tool, just with a completely different intent.
Now, the world of exploits gets even deeper when you start to look at some of the more advanced concepts and the specialized language they use. So let's take a quick peek inside the hacker's toolkit.
You can think of these as the more sophisticated strategies and weapons an attacker might pull out to breach the walls. It's really a whole arsenal of advanced tech.
So here are a few key terms you'll definitely hear. The most famous one, of course, is the zero-day exploit. This is like the ultimate weapon. It targets a flaw that the developer has had literally 0 days to fix, because they don't even know it exists yet. These are so valuable, they get bought and sold on the dark web. A really common way to deliver an exploit is with a buffer overflow. It's this clever attack that basically tricks a program by sending it way too much data, making it crash in a very specific way that gives the attacker an opening. And what do they put in that opening? The shellcode. That's just another name for the payload we talked about, that tiny, efficient piece of code that hijacks the system.
Okay, so we've seen the threat. We understand the hidden cracks. We understand the secret key. So the big question is, what is the single most important thing you can do to protect yourself? In other words, how do you reinforce those fortress walls? How do you patch up those vulnerabilities before an attacker even has a chance to start making a key for them?
Believe it or not, your single best defense is incredibly simple. Keep your software updated. That's it. When developers find these vulnerabilities, they release patches to fix them. So updating your software is basically like having a crew of masons on call, 24/7, constantly repairing the cracks in your fortress walls. You combine that with just being a little bit vigilant, being careful what you download and click on, and you make an attacker's job incredibly difficult.
So, there you have it. An exploit is the key that fits a vulnerability's lock. It's a tool that can be used for good or for evil. But here's the final thought I want to leave you with. Every single day, millions of lines of new code are written, creating countless new, undiscovered cracks in our digital walls, which means that right now, somewhere out there, someone is already busy forging the next key.